Welcome to The Conversation. My name is Shannon Taylor. I'm the Executive Director of Not Just Blacks and Jews in Conversation and Blacks and Jews in Conversation, Inc., the sponsor of this program. Now, welcome to part 2 of our interview with Detective Professor Christopher Chapman from Kingsborough Community College, KCC, as it's known to those who have loved it. We've been there before, as I mentioned on the first interview, and I would just add that it is always a great privilege to share the viewers with professors from our colleges. We are an organization that has been across the country. We've been to over 60 universities and colleges. We've been all over our region, and our main goal is to bring people together, especially in the learning atmosphere, from high schools and junior high schools, and of course universities and clubs. And to have a professor come and visit us, and then having taken the tour of the criminal courts and the Supreme Courts, is of course one of our main objectives. And under the banner of the new administration in Washington is exactly one of the objectives, I believe, of this administration as well. Now, Professor Chapman, I'd like to explore a little more of what your background has helped you with in terms of the subjects that you teach at Kingsborough. For instance, you are a detective, honored as such, with narcotics, and you teach at the criminal justice section. How do you bring your perspective into play in your course?
Well, thank you so much for having me here. Teaching at Kingsborough Community College, it's so rewarding, whereas I teach in two hemispheres, or two capacities. One, I teach about the theory, what scholars talk about in the criminal justice system, but then I relate the theories to actual reality, where actually the laws on the book or the way in which law or procedure is supposed to be is written is not necessarily how it's actually administered on the street. So I have discussions with the students as to what the letter of the law is, what the theory of the law is, and then real-life examples how I carried out or have seen policies, arrests, or operations take place. Because as you know, the things that you see on television and on these on the shows, on all the different cop shows, it's really not reality. You know, it's a fantasy world where crimes or cases aren't solved in 30 minutes. Sometimes it takes months, sometimes it takes years, and sometimes cases are never solved. But I think that I have the luxury of being able to take the theoretical knowledge and putting it into a practical standpoint for the students. I started off as a police officer writing tickets. I worked a police desk. I then went to a police academy, got sworn in as a police officer across the river in New Jersey. My first day out of the police academy, I was assigned to a narcotics group where I conducted narcotics investigations, where I would go to places where individuals were selling narcotics, either in their homes, in a bar, or on a corner. I'd make friends with them. We would make friends. We'd go out, we'd party, we'd hang out. And a year later, we would go out and execute search warrants, and we would arrest those individuals. And you know, did it solve the drug problem? No. You know, we talk about displacement or moving the drug problem from one area to another area, and some of the reasons why individuals get involved in drug activities. So I did that for a while. I did that, you know, in New Jersey. I did it. You know, I came over to New York for a little bit. I also did an operation where I worked with international police officers from many different countries, telling them how to establish programs for narcotics investigations, how to conduct different types of investigations. I've taught in Argentina at their National Police Academy, where I taught a police supervision course. Actually, I wrote a course, and then actually we brought some of the police officers back here. Some of them went up to the West Point Leadership Academy, or West Point Command and Leadership Training. So it's exciting, where, you know, we could take a textbook, we read a theory, and then relate it to practical experiences.
In your work at the Kingsborough College, you're relatively new to it. How long have you been there?
I've been at Kingsborough since September of 2008.
In your work there, do you find the students are energized for a career after college? Do they prefer just to think about what they want to do, or do they have their future in mind?
You know, it's a very diverse population of students at Kingsborough. I think from speaking with the president, Dr. Peruggi, we pretty much have every language that's pretty much spoken in the world is represented at Kingsborough. So we have some students that are transitioning right from high school, so they're really not sure what they want, so they're taking a course here and a course there. We have other individuals that clearly know that they want to go into the criminal justice field, but they don't know specifically what area of the criminal justice field they want to go into. We have other individuals that are, that are working. I do a program on Sundays where I go into the college and I teach criminal justice classes on Sundays because, some of the students are working, they have families, they have other requirements, so the traditional schedule does not work for them. But so we have a whole host. Some of the students know exactly where they want to go, some need a little direction, and some are actually where they are and just want to improve themselves.
When we were at Kingsborough, we had about 200 students in this huge class. We had Judge Hornblass and Judge Douglas and Jewish, black, and an Asian judge, an Italian judge. And no matter how many different varieties of judges came with us, there was still like 150 nationalities represented at Kingsborough. Is that still the case?
Yes, definitely. I teach in a thing I call student learning clusters, where all of my classes are active classes as opposed to passive classes. A passive class would be I'm in the front of the class and I lecture to you. I lecture for about half of the class, and then the second half of the class I put the students in clusters. And I purposely form the clusters where there's different representation, because I think what's important with higher education is that you're exposed to people that may have beliefs or may have opinions that are different than yours, and you're able to discuss your differences and possibly, convince your fellow classmate why your opinion is correct, or maybe you disagree. But having students coming from all different parts of this world, is exciting. Having them, you can just walk through the hall and you hear people speaking Russian, Italian, Spanish, English, of course, Polish. So it's a great environment. It's an environment where students are exposed to a lot of individuals that are different than themselves.
Now, your background is quite distinguished. You were honored as a detective. Would you tell me something about that?
I was honored by the National Narcotics Association and the state of New Jersey and the Union County Prosecutor's Office as the Police Officer of the Year. Every year, the Prosecutor's Office, or sometimes they're referred to as the District Attorney Office, the attorneys get together and they vote or they select one officer that has advanced or assisted them in advancing their goal within the office. The particular incident, or the year that I was honored, it was for working in a undercover capacity where I've purchased narcotics at the street level and within homes and different locations throughout the state, where it was the largest narcotics investigation that took place within this particular county. Not only just purchasing the drugs, but being able to identify the individuals, present information in court, testifying at grand juries, testifying in front of a jury in a manner in which a jury can understand, sometimes complex information, or making the jury understand that it's not like on television where you can't get a fingerprint from a crack vial or different things like that. And based on the number of trials that we've had, again, we've had almost 120 trials, sometimes between 120 and 140 trials testifying, and every defendant was found guilty. So I was honored for being the Police Officer of the Year, also by the New Jersey Narcotics Association.
When you now go into a different field from such an active enforcement arm, how do you make the transition? Do you have a lot of field trips at the college? Do you bring the students into police work as observers? Do you tell them about terrorism? Because they're in the justice section. You come from the Department of History as well as justice. What do you take with you?
What I attempt to do is all of that. Each student learns differently. So I try to utilize as many mediums to touch the students so that they want to engage the material. Dr. Kowalczyk, who's the chair of the history, political science, and philosophy department, gives a great latitude. Visiting the courthouse is a great opportunity for the students to see how justice, is dispensed. It's there. It's the students' courthouse. They have the right to go to the court. They should be encouraged to go to the court to see what's taking place. Trips like going to the courthouse. I have individuals from the Department of Homeland Security coming to class, talking about careers within the Department of Homeland Security, the mission of the Department of Homeland Security. I have the state police, sheriff's departments come in, but then also I have private organizations come in. I'm attempting to have a representative from, everyone usually knows about the FBI, the CIA, the DEA. I'm trying to have an individual from the DIA come in and speak to the class, which is the Defense Intelligence Agency. I had an opportunity to teach at their military academy in Virginia, and I did about 2 weeks. I did a program at the Defense Intelligence Agency, and that's where they practice war games, they practice military operations. So I did a leadership symposium for them. So I think the more mediums, the more things that you can expose to the students, it gives them a better opportunity to make a better informed decision as to, do I really want to go into criminal justice? And if I want to go into criminal justice, what is it that I want to go into? I speak to some students, they want to become an attorney. I said, well, not necessarily. Maybe a criminal justice degree or a degree in criminal justice may not be what you need if you want to practice law. Some students want to go into forensic psychology. Some students want to become police officers. Some want to become FBI agents. So I try to, depending on the particular course, to expose them to what the reality of the job is and to answer any questions they may have.
What led you to the first visit you're now making to the courts of New York State? What was the immediate motivation?
The course that I'm currently teaching now is crime and punishment. So pretty much the class is what it sounds like. It's crime and punishment. Individuals commit crimes, and then there's a punishment for the crime. So what better place than to go to the court to see how is punishment handed out? What is the purpose of punishment? We talk about different theories. Individuals commit crimes, but when they're being punished, are we punishing the individual, or are we sending a message to other individuals to deter them from engaging in criminal activities? So the purpose of going to the court is to possibly to listen to a couple sentences and maybe having having the opportunity to speak with the judges to determine asking them the questions. Did you think that this person had free will? Do you think it was something else? And again, from speaking with the judges, they were so receptive, and the students got a first-hand, real-life look at punishment being, or maybe not so much punishment, but sanctions and penalties being distributed for acts that violated not only the social contract, but the code of the state.
Well, we all know the Gilbert and Sullivan line from the Mikado, famous song, "Let the punishment fit the crime." And are your students of the mind that the punishment system we have fits the crimes? Are they coming in and going out with a different philosophy that nothing really makes sense anymore? That the Rockefeller drug laws do supply ample deterrence and punishment, or they do not? What is the current mindset, as you can glean it from your students, as far as the adequacy of punishment?
It's different. Each student has a different perspective. Some believe that justice is fair. Some students believe that the criminal justice system is diametrically opposed to minorities. They believe that minorities are affected, or the criminal justice system is harsher on minorities. And we talk about the sanctions for someone possessing crack cocaine versus powder cocaine. And one of the analogies that a student came up with was great. It was the student said, well, what's the difference? Let's say that possessing eggs were against the law. One person is possessing a hard-boiled egg, while another student or another individual is possessing a fried egg. the individual that has the fried egg goes to jail longer than the person that has a hard-boiled egg. So what is the difference? So now they look at, they go back to the race of the defendant and trying to look at what was the intent of the law. So not only do we just talk about what the law is, but we look at what is the intent of the law. And the students come up with some great arguments, some theories that I haven't thought of, some theories that haven't, even been published. So, we talk about just desserts. You commit a crime or a punishment, so the punishment should fit the crime, but then sometimes there are reasons why individuals commit crime. We talk about theories, like the strain theory, where the individual does everything that society asks them to do. They have a job, they got an education, but still they can't achieve the American dream because of extra legal considerations or other environmental conditions, so they have no choice but to resort to criminal activity. So we look at a variety of reasons why individuals engage in criminal behavior.
What are your students aiming for from Kingsborough? Are they aiming to go into law? Are they aiming to go into law enforcement? Are they aiming to become professors, diplomats? What is the general goal?
A large majority of the students that are within the criminal justice program have the unique opportunity. A partnership was formed under the guidance of President Peruggi, wherein students who complete a criminal justice degree at Kingsborough can transition into the baccalaureate program at John Jay College. So meaning they finish their associate's degree at Kingsborough, they automatically can transition into the bachelor's program at John Jay. A lot of the students want to become police officers. So I bring New York City police officers to the classroom. They have an opportunity to ask questions to determine, is this for me, is this not for me? So then I bring an agent from the Department of Homeland Security in, ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and then some of the students that wanted to be NYPD police officers say, hey, I think I want to be an ICE agent. So I think the purpose of education is to expose the students to the different opportunities that are available to them, and only become available to them because they have an education.
This is from the College of Kingsborough. It says Community College Week, serving the whole student. What exactly is Community College Week?
It's fascinating. When I first came to the college, President Peruggi asked me to be on a committee, and part of the committee was civic engagement. All of my classes that I teach, I require a civic engagement activity, whereas the students have to engage in some type of activity where they're giving back to the community. I say instead of just being a meat eater, you have to give back to the community in some sense. Some students volunteer at nursing homes. Some students volunteer to tutor children after school. Some students go to the VA hospital and they videotape the veterans. They play checkers. So it's an opportunity for everyone within the campus to give of themselves. Everyone has something that they can give to help somebody else out. Even you may not have money and you may not have that much time, but you have a little bit more money and you have a little bit more time than some other people. This is a historic week, and my father-in-law keeps saying, and I don't know if he made this up or someone else, but he said that Dr. King marched so Rosa Parks could sit, so Barack Obama could run, so that we can fly. And that pretty much is saying that we're standing on the shoulders of individuals that came before us. So students that are going to Kingsborough Community College have an opportunity to give back, not just to the college community, not just to the community outside of the walls of the college, but to their community where they live, and also to the global community.
And then there is a. By the way, I'm familiar with that poetry. I've heard it from Pete Seeger, who has been on the show 3 times, and courtesy of family who worked with him. And it's interesting history. I know you're a history professor. What do you make from the point of view of history? There was an article in the New York Times some weeks ago with our chairperson, Judge Thompson, 3 generations of Thompson going to the inaugural. What do you make of the turnabout in history as it bears on the current American social, political, and economic scene?
It's a very, very interesting period in time. I would just, it's sad to say that a lot of attention is being given to the fact that Barack Obama is the first African American president. I would hope that eventually, this country gets to a place where we say Barack Obama was elected president, or the next African American president, or the first Jewish president, where we take that title away. Dr. Martin Luther King talks about individuals or his children being judged by their character and not the color of their skin. Barack Obama happened to be the most qualified, capable candidate that was running for president, and it just so happened that he was black. It was an interesting story. I was kicked out of a police academy that I was teaching, where I was teaching by the director of the academy, because he came in and he was telling the police recruits that they weren't black, they weren't female, they weren't this, and they weren't that they were all blue. And I understood what he said. What he meant was that it was a brotherhood, so that we're all blue, that we don't see color. And then he said, is that right, Instructor Chapman? And I said, no, sir. I said, being black is important to me. Being Jewish would be important to a person that is Jewish. Being Baha'ing is important to a person that's Baha'ing. And I think to try to say I don't see color, or I don't see religion, or I don't do this, you're kind of denying who that person is. So it's a very enjoyable time. It's a very excitable time where the country voted for the best candidate, or the candidate that the country believed was the best candidate, and that candidate happens to be an African American. I think that's what should go down. It shouldn't be that the country voted for an African American. It seems very common that in high-profile positions, if there's a minority that held the position, and when that minority figure leaves, that position has to be replaced by a minority. Hopefully the country will get into a position where, regardless of the person's sexual persuasion, the person's religion, or the person's race, and that's a whole other topic where I talk about race, where I don't believe there's a such thing as race. Race is a socially constructed phenomenon, where we use race to expose our differences, but being that people utilize race or talk about race, that shouldn't be the deciding factor. Tony Brown talked about, we all came over in different ships, but we're in the same boat now. And what he meant by that is, regardless of your race, your sexual persuasion, or your religion, the economy, the country is struggling, and when in order for this country to progress or to advance, individuals, regardless of their background, are going to have to get together, and start building up this country. I remember, again, Tony Brown said again, don't wait for your ship to come in. Swim out to your ship, meaning don't wait for someone to do something for you. Don't believe that you're entitled to something. Prepare yourself. Prepare yourself for greatness. There's no such thing as, somebody that you can't because someone didn't do. As long as you prepare yourself, and you do all that you can, prepare yourself education-wise. Prepare yourself by getting involved with the community. Prepare yourself by saving some money. It doesn't have to be a lot, but save some type of money, and you will prepare yourself so when opportunity knocks, you'll be prepared.
I thank you. You found the right organization in us. There'll be plenty of men. If you have plans for further trips, I'll introduce you to the members of our organization in the other boroughs, starting with Manhattan. And you should bring our members over to your college. And in the meantime, I see that you presented me with an article from the New York Times, which did wonderful articles about us in the 90s, and had just pictures from us and the various courses we went to. The 2-year attraction of community colleges.
Yes.
Would you say something about that in the last 2 minutes?
Community college, community colleges are the pulse of of the community. Community colleges where individuals that want to learn skills that are easily transferable to the workforce, that's where they go. Community colleges are not just to educate students, in reading, writing, arithmetic, or a specific course, but it's to educate and to prepare the whole person. That's why Kingsborough is such a great institution, where we're preparing students to be successful or be meaningful contributors to society, to think more of them, to think less of themselves, but more of others. Again, in order for you to help someone else, you have to help yourself, but to think of helping someone other than yourself. Community colleges across the country serve a very vital role. Not everyone's going to go to a four-year school. Not everyone knows if higher education is for them, so this is an opportunity for them to have a sampling and to receive a high-quality college at a very reasonable price and at times which are convenient for them.
Thank you very much, Professor Chapman, for coming on for these two sessions, and I wish you and the college all the most wonderful future, and I look forward to more sojourns with you and your students.
Thank you very much for having me.